What has worked for you? What are you doing to slim down? Um, I got that question this week, and it was the second person in the past week and a half that said, "Oh, you look slimmer," which is always really nice to hear, isn't it? So I wanted to make this video specifically for that person because my answer was like a lot of different things, which is a really vague answer. And if you uh, have been watching some of my videos, some of these ideas may be repeated, but repetition is the mother of retention. So hopefully it'll just keep being beneficial. I'm Katarina. This is Level Up Life Project, and thank you for joining me. So I want to talk about things that I'm doing. I'm still working toward my own personal goals, but and this is not like the full list of everything that I think would be beneficial. But when I think about over the past couple of weeks, what are some of the specific things I've been doing without making it super long? I want to break that down, and I thought of an acronym for you: SEAMS, SEEMS. So let's talk about those one at a time and then recap at the end. If there's any part of this that you're like, oh, I wish you'd go deeper into whatever, then put that in the comments and I will make a video in the future to go deeper into that. So let's get started. The first S in SEAMS is for sleep. Sleep is super important. It makes such a huge difference in so many aspects of our lives, but one of them is our health and weight management. So I have all of the ideas right about what needs to happen with sleep, but it's one of my weaker areas as far as really being consistent with it and getting it to like optimum of what it needs to be. So optimum would be being asleep, not just in bed, but being asleep before 10 on a consistent basis, and then getting the number of hours that your body needs. Everyone's body is different, but most adults need somewhere between 7 and 9 hours of sleep. Studies indicate that it's not just an option of like choose your time between 7 and 9 hours. There are people that need 8 hours, and that's what they really need to be recharged and good, and other people that need 9 hours, and people that need 7 hours and 45 minutes, and just like any number in between there. It's like a range. I fall toward the higher end of that range, but I have been getting less than 7 hours for a certain period of time. And in the past couple weeks, I've been working on making sure that I get at least 7.5 hours of actual sleep time most nights. And sometimes, because your body lets you know as you are doing too much and you don't get there, you can sleep in on the other side. That's something that I heard of first from Katie Bowman. And I thought, that's fantastic, because we can't just in a normal week, you have responsibilities, you have things you need to get up and do. You can't always sleep in to catch up on a few nights of lost sleep, but you may be able to go to bed several hours earlier than normal, just by putting off, a couple of things for a day. And I've done that a couple of times. So getting into bed at 9 p.m. And letting myself sleep to my normal wake up time just to put back in some lost sleep has been super amazing and refreshing. But there are several things around sleep hygiene, things that I've done for a while, making sure that the room is dark, avoiding waking up and looking at my phone. It's natural. I guess maybe I shouldn't say natural, but for a lot of people, it's a normal part of sleep habits to wake up for a couple minutes during the night. And we have sleep cycles where we go from like light sleep to deeper sleep and back to light sleep, where in that light sleep you may be like half awake. So that's normal. But if you wake up for a second, turn over, and have the habit of, oh, let me check my phone, it's something that has an impact on how deep your sleep is from that point, because you're getting this blast of light and the blue light and all those things. So I'm not going to go super deep into it, but that's one thing of not checking my phone at night. having the room dark, things that make your sleeping area comfortable, all those sort of sleep hygiene things. But a huge thing is how much time do you sleep and how much of that time is before 2 a.m. Because before 2 a.m., between 10 p.m. and 2 a.m. is when we have the most potential for really getting the most benefit from our sleep. So there's the S in SEAMS. First E is for eating. And I say eating, not diet, not just because it makes a nicer acronym, but because it's really not about being on a diet. I have certain things that I prefer to eat and things that I prefer not to eat, and for a couple of reasons. But I say eating because it's really, to me, more about working with your body and covering what your body needs and understanding why your body needs certain things or needs to avoid certain things and working with that, right? Not, I'm going to punish my body into submission. And even though I highly desire such category of food or such specific foods, I'm going to force myself not to eat them. I've tried that, have not been successful with it. And just mentally, it's not conducive. That perspective toward eating is not conducive to long-term success. And I say long-term success because you can willpower through for a certain amount of time, but eventually life gets tough and you say, whatever, I'm just going to eat the thing. But if you have things that you're changing because you are truly and fully convinced that it's benefiting you, you eat that way and you feel better, it's such a natural impulse to keep going and becomes part of your lifestyle instead of something that you have to force yourself to do and stay consciously aware of and just working against the flow to make it happen. Work with the flow. So what are some things that I do to work with the flow when it comes to eating? If something makes me feel unwell, I avoid it. So in my case, I've said in previous videos, I have an autoimmune thyroid condition. And there are two big things that I don't eat because with that condition and with where my body is right now, they make me feel unwell. So it's gluten and dairy, and not just lactose, but dairy. So if you also have an autoimmune condition, you may look into, hey, do I feel better from my autoimmune systems when I drop certain things? Not punishing your body, not saying this is off limits because I'm trying to drop weight, but trying to see like, hey, if I let go of this, do I feel better? And for me, it's super noticeable. There were probably things happening on the inside for who knows how long, but I started getting like skin symptoms. I get like a reaction on my hand when I eat either gluten or dairy. So my body just made it super duper clear. This does not agree with us for now. As you keep working on your health and doing things, there is some hope, especially with dairy, that can change in the future. But whatever your thing is, like if you eat X thing and you have any type of reaction and that happens consistently, your body is telling you this is not good right now for us at this time in our lives. And if you can respect that and then maybe choose a time like, okay, well, I'm working on my health, I'm going to try that food or that category of foods again in 6 months and see, is my body still telling me the same thing? That's something that's an option. Again, as I go into these things, especially getting into things about like food and the other things we'll talk about, which the last one is the biggest impact. So stick around to the end if you're still with me, or zoom forward to the end. But check with your doctor. You know your body better than anyone else, but don't make any changes to diet, exercise, and that type of thing without getting approval from your doctor. But yeah, for me, cutting dairy and gluten, but that's from a long time ago. And I actually went from like hovering around maybe like 30 to 40 pounds heavier than I am before I dropped gluten, and then dropped like 20 pounds, and then hovered around there, and then dropped there and made some other changes and dropped gradually. These are all gradual changes. This is over probably past 3 years, but dropped another 20 pounds. So just harmonize, like getting into harmony with what your body actually is responding poorly to can make a big difference. And then the other things around eating are responding to your body's needs when it's sending you signals and becoming more sensitive to interpreting those signals. So that sounds really vague. I'm going to explain it a little bit more, but if you want more detail, let me know in the comments after this explanation. So what I mean by that is eat when you're hungry, don't eat when you're not. That's my strategy right now. Hunger, specifically hunger that comes as a signal from the stomach. Sometimes we have other signals, like a signal from the mouth, which happens to me a lot. I recently got some xylitol gum, which I'm going through sometimes, but for stress or boredom, sometimes we receive a message that's like, oh, I want to eat something, but then you got to check in, okay, is this, I want to eat something because I'm actually hungry and I need nutrition? And if it is that you're hungry, you need nutrition, making sure that you provide your body with something that will nourish it, right? Something that will give it the building blocks it needs to do the best that it can do with helping you live your life. So, your macronutrients, the protein, fat, and carbs. But carbs, I'm not saying that you have to be carb free or carb heavy. That is like another conversation. Personally, I've been working on paying attention to, am I getting healthy fats? I changed a long time ago from seed oils to cooking with olive oil or coconut oil, and getting enough protein. So the other thing, like, so, think about those things. Think about, when I eat, am I getting protein? Because that has a big impact on how satisfied you are for how much time after you finish eating. And fermented foods is another aspect of eating that I've been paying attention to, getting some type of fermented food, eating that at least once a day. And the other part of responding to the body is eat when you're hungry, don't eat when you're not actually hungry. But the other part of it is stopping when you're satisfied. This can be like from the wider culture, family culture, of like eating till you're full, and even people that love us saying, oh, have more, there's plenty, let me serve you this, do you want dessert? But by stopping when you're satisfied, you give yourself such a hand up when it comes to weight management, because you're listening to your body's cues, and your body has a bunch of cues, whether it's like, the stomach is full, so it sends like, I'm full, no more space for anything. And there are also hormonal cues that hormones that get released to provide hormonal cues to say, we have enough nourishment for now. Let us process this, and then when we're hungry again, give us more. And so I've been working a lot on that, of staying aware of that, eating to satisfaction, not eating to fullness. And part of what helps with that is eating slowly, which again is something that I have to consciously work on, because that's not like a habit that I grew up with, of eating slowly, chewing food thoroughly, which has so many other benefits too. And like, chewing is just good. But those things about eating, paying attention to what am I eating to nourish my body, and eating things that will help go toward the goals that I'm going toward, as well as eating to respond to my body's signal. And that's both like, don't eat if you're not hungry, but when you're hungry, eat. So for me, I have the luxury right now that I work from home. So during the day, it's easy for me to grab a snack really quick. If I get hungry at a time that's not a typical time, but that can also, and that does also mean for me when I'm out on the weekends, I always make sure that I have a snack with me, because especially since I can't eat gluten without hurting my body, that means that when I'm out, I'm not just going to stop at a fast food restaurant, because there are very, very few options that are truly gluten-free. And then if you're doing the other thing that I mentioned too, of trying to make a focus on getting healthy fats, and when I say healthy fats, like avoiding seed oils, because they have repercussions on how we feel as well. And I don't think anyone says, "Ooh, I'm craving some canola oil," right? Like, you're craving a food, what it's cooked in. The oil that it's cooked in is not what you're craving, but it does have an impact on how your body feels. So anyway, keeping that in mind, if you're grabbing things from restaurants and stuff while you're out, it's all communication and having an impact on your body. So I always have snacks with me. And that's really helpful, because if I'm out and about and I get hungry, I can respond to what my body is asking for. My body's asking for me to eat. I can take a second, take a snack out of my purse and eat. So that's what I'll touch on for eating right now. The second E, so we've done sleep, eating. Second E is exercise. I have been doing exercise at home for pretty much over the summer. So I have a gym membership that I was not using over the summer, but I kept doing exercise at home. And these past few weeks, I have gotten back to the gym. I really like a routine that, and I'm not even doing it exactly, but that's the nice thing about listening to your body and filling your needs, is that you can see somebody's suggestion, somebody's idea, and modify it to what works for you, what fits you. So anyway, a routine of going to exhaustion for your different large muscle groups once a week. So I've been doing that the last couple of weeks, and I like it. And then other days, just doing more mobility type things, walking, other things. But whatever exercise routine you like, and you're capable of, is safe for you, you're approved to do, will likely have good results over the long term. Some of them won't, certain things will have faster results as opposed to others, or more noticeable results as opposed to others. And exercise is a lever that you can pull when it comes to slimming down. It's not the only one, and according to some sources, not even the biggest one. But it has so many benefits, and it has an impact on the last one, the last S that we're going to talk about in a minute. But I really do feel like it's important to include in your week, in your day. And it ties really closely to the next one of movement. But I separated these because I think it's really important to keep bringing attention to the fact that exercise is just a tiny portion of your day. If you exercise for an hour every day, it's only 4% of your day that is active. And then if the whole rest of the day you're sedentary, yes, you'll get benefits, but it's not in the same way or to the same level as if you include movement throughout your day, throughout your week. So a big thing that I've been doing is including movement throughout the day and throughout the week. I have a standing desk, but it's not just a standing desk. It's like a movable desk, so like a dynamic workstation, to do another Katie Bowman reference. But it can go from being at like sitting height to standing height. And that's important because just like there are repercussions from sitting all day, if you stand all day and your body's not ready or strong enough for that, you can get like pain and troubles because of standing too long as well. So I like that I'm able to go from standing to sitting and back again. And when I'm standing, sometimes move around, whether that's just like marching in place or and when I'm sitting too, there I've shown in different videos certain things you can do when sitting. I'm not going to go into that now. But if you already are a person who your job is active, your job has you on your feet, seeing where are the movement gaps in my life. Like if your job is already active, but you hardly ever raise your arms over your head, for example, that's an opportunity you have for more movement, right? And if you work in a place where you're not just going to walk around like, oh, I'm raising my arms. Oh, that is one thing I do. Like when I walk down the hall, I go like this because it's like a limp thing. But anyway, maybe when you go to the restroom, you do like a couple of arm swings or arm raises or reaches. Just seeing where can I bring more movement in, especially parts of my body that are not receiving a lot of movement in my current lifestyle, and that'll activate muscles that don't get activated as often, which means strengthening muscles that haven't been strengthened. And just making what we hear about those choices that lead to more movement. If you're going to the store, you don't have to look for the closest spot. You can get like an average, like a somewhat far away or super far away spot and walk on in. Or other smaller movements, like if I'm going to play with my son, I will often get on the ground to play with him because just the fact of sitting on the ground, you're going to get uncomfortable in whichever position you choose to start in after a couple minutes. And so your body's going to send you signals of, hey, we need to reposition. And then you use different muscles and joint positions to get into a different position. And then you sit in that position for a little while. So, there are really lots of ways that you can add movement in. And if you're not a person who is in a job or like circumstances that have you active and moving around, looking for opportunities to get more steps in. I saw something this week from a post from Dr. Mark Hyman that reiterated the idea I've seen somewhere else, that 10,000 steps was kind of like an arbitrary number, that now that they've done more studies on it, between 5,000 and 7,000 steps is where you see noticeable benefits as compared to 2,000 steps or less. So, just seeing where you can get those in. I've talked in a previous video about when I'm cooking, I will pace or do like little salsa steps or whatever. So, there are places where we're normally used to standing still or sitting down where we can, with just a little bit of awareness, bring more movement in. And those little bits of extra movement that we weren't getting previously can really add up. So that's one thing that I've been doing. And now for the last one, which is super important and has such a huge impact on everything else. I chose to call it self-work, both because, yes, it has to do with mindset, but I think we hear so much like, oh yeah, mindset's so important, and not as much about like, okay, if your mindset has been a certain way, or you're telling yourself, oh, I need to be more positive, or like be kinder to myself, or whatever the thing is, just being told you need to do this doesn't really teach you how to do it. So I want to talk for a second about self-work and how do you actually do it. Like, how do you actually work on yourself in a way to move you closer to your goals? And that's really the first step in doing self-work, is identifying what your goal is. And so since this is the context of, hey, what have you been doing to slim down? I'm going to guess that yours has to do with physique, or one of them maybe has to do with physique. So like getting clear on what your goal is and then moving toward it in an intentional way, but also from a place of calm and love towards yourself. So let's talk about moving toward a better place for appearance, and like really specifically applying it to goals of like weight management, or um, like toning up or slimming down, or whatever your goal is. I grew up overweight. I was overweight like my childhood, teenage years. Still overweight, but getting there. And a lot of my recollections around like exercise and eating changes and dieting in my teenage years were from a place of, I dislike my body, or my body shouldn't look like this, so I need to make it change. And that results in lots of hurtful self-talk. And hurtful self-talk, I'm not going to say it won't work for anyone, because I'm sure there are people out there that it works for them. However, for most people, in my opinion, and I'll say for me personally, hurtful self-talk did not get me anywhere for a long term. And choosing to approach your goal intentionally with positive words, positive actions, a positive mindset is so beneficial, both because, again, like I started talking about from earlier, working with your body, not against it, is just huge. But also, most of us don't want to feel bad about ourselves for long periods of time. And so if your changes toward health are because you feel bad about yourself, then the healthy change has this connection to negative things, and eventually your mind is not going to want to keep tuning into that. But if your changes toward health have a connection to positive things, then that's something that you will keep coming back for more and will happily build on. So I said I would talk about specific things you could do. So here they are. Number one is realize you get to choose which thoughts you keep with you. Negative, especially if your habit has been negative self-talk. Oh, I hate how I look in that picture, or, I don't want to go into too many examples, but acknowledging that thought and then immediately choosing to pivot to a positive thought. So I don't want to do too many examples. So let's stick with that same one. If you see a picture and you're like, oh, I hate how I look in that picture, because you're criticizing your appearance because you're overweight or you're not in the shape you want to be, and you pivot immediately to something authentically positive. You have a couple of choices. You can pivot to like make your mind go on purpose to something that you like about yourself, right? So you just had that negative whatever, but you make your mind go on purpose to, I'm so blessed that I was born with curly hair and I love my curly hair, right? Or you can pivot to going to your goal and visualizing it and how you will feel when you reach it. So that one takes a little bit more time, but it's a really, really great practice to get into the habit of doing several times a day anyway. But let's say for this example, you see a picture, you're like, I really don't like how I look there. And you acknowledge that, and that's your feeling about that picture. And then imagine the picture in your mind of how you want to look, and then let yourself feel like, I'm so proud of myself that I made this goal. Think of it as if you're already there. So think of it like, I'm so proud of myself that I have accomplished what I set out to accomplish. And now that I am in the ideal shape and I'm living this great lifestyle. I have so much energy. I love um, doing X thing. Like, maybe I love kayaking now and I feel so confident and strong when I'm in the water. Like, whatever your thing is, just get in that place mentally and get in the habit of spending more time in happy thoughts than in critical thoughts. And another part of positive self talk is to notice the good things that you're doing that are moving towards your goal and celebrating them. So even if it's super small, so even if it's, um, I got into bed at 9:30 instead of 12:30. I'm amazing. I am doing it. I am moving toward my goal, right? And just celebrating that, being happy about it. Or I bought some kimchi from the store and now I'm eating my lunch with a little bit of kimchi on the side because I'm adding fermented foods, right? So, whatever it is, and just taking that time to celebrate it, and even slotting out time to write down 10 things you're grateful for, related or unrelated to your goal. Just, again, positive self-talk as a practice, not just saying like, oh yeah, I got to do positive self-talk, but like really, I'm trying to give you specific ways that you can make positive self-talk a part of your life, and in an authentic way, right? I I had a friend when I was a teenager, that was also overweight, and she said to me, she had this like so many beautiful shoes. She said to me one time, I love buying shoes because they always fit, right? If you know your shoe size, uh, you get nice shoes. They're not going to be days where like, oh, I'm bloated. These shoes are too tight. No, unless that would be a different problem if you have swelling in your legs or ankles. But um, for most of us, if we're dealing with being overweight, like your shoes are going to fit. So uh, that was something that she authentically loved buying. She loved buying new shoes. She loved wearing her beautiful shoes. So again, like even if right now there are, your stomach or your arms or your thighs, whatever it might be that you're like, oh, I don't like this part of me, I can guarantee that there's a part of you that you can find to genuinely focus on and say, I like this about myself. Like for me, I mentioned my hair. For some people, it's their feet and like the way they can wear certain shoes or their nails or, you know, whatever that part of you is, start there and then keep expanding in appreciation and love for yourself. And not in a way to be conceited, right? Not in a way to like put others down, but this can even, when we speak positively to ourselves and generally work on building up more self-confidence, then we can spread that and share that with others and genuinely compliment them on the good things about their personality or accomplishments or appearance. um, and also for yourself, I do encourage you to find something you physically like about yourself if right now you're working on improving yourself physically. But also, like all that I just mentioned for other people, appreciate those things about yourself. And just that part of self work is learning to speak to ourselves in a way that acknowledges the good where we are and magnifies it and grows it so that we keep growing and more good moving forward. The other part of this is self improvement in the sense of what you feed your mind is what your mind has to work with. So, if right now what you feed your mind is negative or neutral, it's going to be harder to grow or cultivate from that positive thoughts and actions. So, some of the things that are negative or best neutral is like the news. Um, I'm not saying it's not good to be aware of what's happening in the world, but if that's a routine or large part of your day, Often we just need a couple highlights, not 30 minutes a day to stay caught up on everything. I personally have chosen to stop watching the news because then this was a decision I made years ago. But even the music we choose to listen to, I have an old playlist. I was like, man, I was in a really sad place when I liked these songs, because when I listen to it now, it's like, man, these are some sad songs. So even the music you choose to listen to, I'm not saying sad songs don't have their place, but if just on a regular day, that's the music you put on, you're feeding yourself sadness. um, so just what you choose to feed yourself, to feed your mind from what you watch, what you listen to as far as music, what you listen to for audiobooks and videos, and what you read, choosing to deliberately input things that will contribute towards your goal, in the best way, right? Because and I say that because, again, focusing on like health and weight management, there are things that are on that topic that come at it from a really critical place. And then there are things that come at it from a more upbuilding place. So, uh, and you get to choose, right? You get to choose. And even the people that you choose to spend the majority of your time with, that's a choice that you get to make. And just like inviting more up and attracting more upbuilding people into your life involves what you are using your mind to think about. I've said it in a previous video, and I just read something that touched on this again in the past couple of days. We become what we think, right? And not just like, oh, I think I'm a butterfly and I'm going to become a butterfly. No, we become what we think, as far as, if we are using our minds to focus on positive, good things, we will be moving toward becoming a positive, good person. If we use our mind to focus on depressing things, we'll be moving toward becoming a depressed person. And, there are lots of different other applications, but it's just, the mind is so amazing and can help us move toward our goals if we give it something to focus on, and then feed it things that move toward there, and then are intentional about what thoughts we choose to focus on and linger on and expand on with our imaginations. So that is huge and will have an impact on all the other things. So just to recap, I made this video to have one place where I touch on some of the major things that are helping me continue on my own journey toward better health, which part of that is weight management. And the acronym was SEAMS. So sleep, eating, exercise, movement, and self-work. Thanks so much for watching. And if you found value in this, please feel free to share it with someone, or subscribe. And I hope to see you again soon. Bye.